They are a new nonprofit in Charleston, and their mission is to empower individuals and strengthen families, protect the vulnerable, and help seniors age with grace and dignity. Today, we talk to the Jewish Family Services of Greater Charleston.
This is Charleston Women Podcast, where you can meet like-minded, strong, independent, professional, and inspiring local women. This is Charleston Women Podcast.
And now we would like to welcome to the show Sara of the Jewish Family Services of Greater Charleston. Sara, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
I had to look at my sheet as I was saying the name of your organization because that's, you're brand new. You're new to me. You guys just launched in January of this year. Is that correct?
We did. We are brand new, halfway through our first year, and we were once part of the Charleston Jewish Federation, where I worked for the past 8 years, and now we've become our own separate, brand new organization as of January this year.
Okay, so just kind of walk me through that. Why the reorganization, if you will, becoming separate? What led you guys to that?
So we are very lucky that we've had a lot of support from both grants as well as our donors who really saw the work that we were doing and saw that we needed to grow and expand and provide even more services to the greater Charleston area. And we've been so lucky to be able to do that. Most Jewish family service agencies around the country are separate. So we actually have now become our own with our own board and our own staff. And we are small but mighty and looking to really provide some really essential services to the greater Charleston community.
Walk me through that. What are some of the services that you're providing to our community?
So my background is I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. So one of the things I do, I am the CEO of this organization, but I also take on clients, and I love to take on pro bono clients because I personally feel it's so important, especially after this pandemic and all that's been going on, that people should have access to great mental health care. So that's one of the services we offer. And we've been doing telehealth over the past year and looking to reopen our offices very soon. And on top of that, we provide emergency financial assistance to people and families and seniors in need, particularly around housing, paying for utilities, medical expenses, and transportation. Those are our big areas where we've been able to assist people who, and certainly after this last year, that's been incredibly necessary in our area. And we also have a full-time director of senior outreach, and we take great pride in our senior initiatives and really prioritizing seniors because they are such a vulnerable population and making sure that they're also getting the care they need. And we also have an emergency food pantry because we don't want anyone to ever have to choose between groceries and paying for their electric bill. We want to make sure that we can provide that service as well.
Right. Obviously the pandemic was so hard for all of us. Was this part of the plan before the pandemic, or did the pandemic hit and you were like, look, we have to form a separate nonprofit?
It's a great question. We've been preparing for a separation for a couple of years just by watching how big the needs were. So it was certainly a plan before the pandemic, but we certainly never anticipated launching in the middle of a pandemic, not knowing, this was before people were receiving their vaccines. We didn't know how this year was going to go. We are so lucky that the people who've always shown support for our organization and see what we do to care for others, they really stepped up, and we've received so much support that it's been a very, very successful year so far in our first year.
That's great to hear. You launched during a pandemic and you've had success immediately. I'm curious, what is the size of the Jewish population in Charleston? Because you referenced that a larger need, it's growing, right?
So that's the magic question. I think it's definitely higher than this. The last number that we received was around 11,500. But we all know with people moving here every single day, that number I think is significantly higher. But we help people regardless of whether they're Jewish or not. We are a nonprofit organization. We help people regardless of religion, background, age, sexual orientation, gender identity. We want to take care of our Jewish community, and we also want to take care of everyone else, because that's a Jewish value that we stand by in our organization.
Right. And that's such an excellent point, because I think because you're new to town, a lot of people won't realize that. They'll think that it's not for everyone. So I'm glad we're doing this and you can get that word out there. As a community, how can we help? We need to raise awareness because you're doing such great things. We want you to grow. We want you to provide services for more and more people.
Oh, that's such a great question. Well, we are so lucky to have incredible volunteers. We have, like I said, a food pantry where we have volunteers who pack bags and we put it directly in the trunk of our recipients. Because of the pandemic, we changed to a drive-through model to keep everybody safe and limit contact. So certainly people can get involved that way and also raise awareness around food drives and donating to us in that capacity as well. And every December on Christmas Day, a lot of times people say, I don't know what to do on Christmas Day. For the past 5 years, we have run a first responders project where I assign families to first responders, fire stations, police stations, and we bring a treat and cookies or dinner to show our appreciation on Christmas Day for those who are working. So you do not have to be Jewish to be able to show your appreciation to our first responders.
And I love that, because obviously in Christmas, we all want to help out during the holiday season, but so much of it is geared towards children in need and toy drives. Like, you're right. I think we forget about the first responders that are at the fire station on Christmas Day, and they could use a little treat too.
It really brightens their day. And I did it for the 911 operators last year. They say no one ever thinks of us as first responders, and they were working and we brought lunch, and it was just a wonderful experience, something anybody can do.
Yep, I'm sure they still remember it to this day, with the time that you brought lunch. I want to ask you, you mentioned that you're a licensed marriage and family therapist. Just for the people who are listening or watching this right now, if you're online, what advice do you have? Like, the pandemic obviously was hard for so many people. So I know people go to you for therapy and it's all individualized, but do you have any nuggets or tips, any advice that you have for people who might still be struggling?
I had somebody ask me, and they said, looking back at this last year, who do you think had the hardest time? Was it the kids? Was it the seniors? Was it married couples? Was it single people? And I just said, yes. It was everyone. It was a very, very challenging year. And yes, we're in a much better place. We're starting to get a little bit back to quote unquote normal. Mm-hmm. But what I want to tell people is we all just went through a collective trauma as a world, as a society. Mm-hmm. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to seek therapy. It's okay if there are some things that you started doing in the pandemic that you want to keep. Like, maybe you want to stay home more and prioritize some of your alone time or family time instead of being the overscheduled, community that we tend to be. So I really just recommend for people to slowly ease their way back through this kind of transitional year. And there's no pressure or no right way to do it. Everyone should go at their own pace, their own level of comfort.
Right. That's a great piece of advice. I am curious, just because I've heard a lot of people say that, you referenced, we used to be, as a society, overscheduled, right? Running so many different ways, so many things in one day. And I have heard repeatedly from people that almost the return to like that busyness, the return to events, to the scheduling, et cetera, it's giving them anxiety. Have you heard that? Is that could be like a future problem that we have as we reopen?
It is. I've heard also from people, just the idea of having to shake hands again is giving anxiety. Yeah. Like, I haven't touched a person who I didn't know intimately in the last year and a half. So again, I think that knowing that that's normal, it's okay to feel that way. It's okay to feel anxious going back into the world. And some people are like, I'm ready. I'm bouncing right back in. I want to forget this ever happened. But I don't think that's the majority of people. I think this has been a really trying year, and everyone has to just do what feels right in their gut. And if they're having anxiety, talk to your doctor, talk to a therapist. This is the time where care is probably the most accessible, especially with telehealth, that it's ever been.
Right. Such great information. For someone listening right now, where can they go for more information? Because it's twofold. Let's say I'm someone who would like to use your services, someone who just wants to donate, who wants to volunteer. What do we do next?
Come find us on our website. We're at charlestonjfs.org. And you can also find us if you put in Jewish Family Services Charleston on Facebook. We're there. We're updating. Sign up for our newsletter. We'll broadcast all of the great work that we're doing, give some testimonials of some individual stories, as well as all those volunteer opportunities. So we would love for people to reach out.
Do you have any big needs right now? Supplies, funding? What's one thing specifically that we can help with?
I think the biggest challenge right now, even before the pandemic started, Charleston was having a housing crisis. We have a homeless population, we have a low-income population, and with the rise of the cost of living in this city, a lot of people are having a really hard time finding housing that is affordable. So one of our biggest financial needs is funding to make sure that we prevent homelessness, because once somebody gets evicted from an apartment, it's extremely challenging for them to find another with that on their record. We're trying to prevent long-term consequences. So our biggest need really, if being a part of the homelessness solution is important to you, we have funding that goes directly into the hands of people who need it the most.
That's amazing. What's next for you guys? I mean, you're already in just a couple short months. I feel like you're doing so much. You're providing, countless services for our community. What's your next step?
The next step, is expanding. We need more caseworkers, because I think people don't necessarily know how complicated just one case can be for our caseworker. She is so in depth. Her name's Judy Hidman. She's our director of senior outreach. She has done everything from stay during hurricanes with a client who was dying in hospice so that client would not be alone, to being in a delivery room with a mother who had nobody around her and was homeless and scared. And she was in the delivery room with this mother. So we need more of her. She's hard to replace. We're keeping her. We need more incredible
Just replicate
staff.
her if you can.
Right. If I could, I would love a clone. And we're going to grow, and we're going to build a team that's going to really be that intimate, personalized care that people desperately need.
All right, Sara, thank you so much for your time. Again, your website is charlestonjfs.org. As you mentioned, people can just Google it. I was just looking at you guys on Facebook too. You do a great job promoting everything.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Any parting words before we go? I don't want to make sure that we didn't miss anything.
I could talk about JFS all day. Please follow us, and thank you for all of your support in our first year. And we just can't wait to keep serving the community.
All right, Sara, thank you. And this has been the Charleston Women Podcast.
Thanks for spending time with Charleston Women Podcast. Please like us and follow us on whatever platform you're using to access Charleston Women Podcast.